Let's jump into our final topic of the day. The NFL playoffs were over the weekend, and if you were living under a rock, you potentially didn't catch a lot of the action. And there were some interesting things. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I was going to come on here and talk about Kyler Murray on the Arizona Cardinals and basically say this. Listen, you might not like Kyler, and I'm still going to kind of roll with this a little bit. And you might not like the direction of Kyler. And Jonathan Gannon officially committed to Kyler Murray last week without any hesitation. He was asked on the flagship for the Arizona Cardinals, the sports radio show here in Phoenix. He was asked if Kyler Murray would be back next year. Jonathan Gannon said 100%. There was no ifs, no ands, no ers, no buts about what the Arizona Cardinals were going to do with Kyler Murray, and I enjoyed that. And to some of the anti-Kyler crowd who don't necessarily like this idea of Kyler Murray just coming back, no worries about it. And then you kind of look at, there's two ways you can kind of look at this weekend with Kyler Murray. You look at a player that everyone tries to tell you is a top 5 quarterback because he's bigger, stronger, not necessarily more athletic, but he's what your prototypical quarterback looks like in the NFL in Justin Herbert. Call it what it is. You feel better about Justin Herbert as a franchise quarterback over Kyler Murray because he's taller. Because at this point, Herbert, what is it, year 5? It's year 5, year 4? It's almost kind of the argument that you have with Kyler Murray. He is what he is at this point. I understand he might need a little bit better weapons, but these consistent playoff performances are an asininely bad taste in the mouth of Justin Herbert fans. I mean, it's horrendous. Call it what it is. It's horrendous. Justin Herbert's 2 playoff games, he had a 27-7 lead and squandered it. He lost to what some people think is a bust in Trevor Lawrence. And then you have what transpired on Saturday. C.J. Stroud was not having a great second year. Now, a lot of that isn't his fault. The offensive line is horrendous, and he's missing a lot of his key players. But he got annihilated. And outside of a ridiculously long 86-yard touchdown, Justin Herbert was pretty hapless in that game. I mean, he was not good. And it kind of just goes to show you, a lot of Kyler Murray prejudice does come from the fact that he's just a smaller guy. Justin Herbert had 1 touchdown, was kind of fluky, 86 yards, 4 interceptions, a QBR of 13, and a passer rating of 40. Everyone held it against Kyler Murray when he was god-awful against the Los Angeles Rams. We have to start holding Justin Herbert to that same notion or idea that for some reason people just think he's elite just because they want to feel like he's elite. And then it brings me to this. There are, consistently as well, just you feel better. I guess I should say it like this. There are 2 arguments that kind of what I've went through. One is you feel better about Justin Herbert than you do Kyler Murray just because he's bigger and he's stronger. Outside of that, there is no other distinction that Justin Herbert is clearly better in the post-Thanksgiving in the playoffs than Kyler Murray at this point. And that should make you feel good if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan. The fact that Kyler Murray can still be talked about in the same conversation as Justin Herbert. And do I think you could still win a Super Bowl with Justin Herbert? Yes. Does that mean as well you can win a Super Bowl with Kyler Murray? Yes. With the same circumstances that we talked about on Friday. You got to be able to load up this team. So there is a scenario where this team can succeed. It just has to be by loading up this team. But then there's another thing. There's the other argument to what we saw this past weekend. And it goes against people like me. But I have to be honest, it is what it is. I have been adamantly, vehemently against Cliff Kingsbury. And I will not move from that argument. He was a horrendous head coach. Wherever he would go, he would be a horrendous head coach. He's a beta male. He doesn't know how to command a team, leadership. there is no specific team you can point to or organization you can point to with Cliff Kingsbury where they had success outside of the 1 year they made the playoffs with the Cardinals. And if you were paying attention, they were spiraling at that point. But I got to be fair. Him and Jayden Daniels, that win last night, it supports the anti-Kyler crowd and it goes against the pro-Kyler crowd. Now, there is absolutely no argument at this point that Kyler Murray is a better option for this Arizona Cardinals team than not. There's no other better options right now. And Jayden Daniels last night going 24 for 35, 2 touchdowns, QBR of 80, and a passer rating of 110 with Austin Eckler, De'Ami Brown, and Terry McLaurin as his leading receivers. It just goes to show you in this league, you either have it or you don't. Kyler Murray, this idea that he could ever be a top 6 quarterback in the NFL, unfortunately for me, is dead. It doesn't mean he can't ever be a top 10, a top 8 quarterback, but the ceiling that I had for him, that he can be a top 6 guy, like that's dead. And that goes with watching Jayden Daniels. We're in year 7 next year of Kyler Murray, year 6 this year. You either have it or you don't, and Jayden Daniels has it. He was electric last night. He carried this Commanders team to their first playoff win in God knows how long. I think they might have won 1 with Kirk Cousins. And seeing that fan base at the opposing team's field, it was louder when the Commanders scored than when the Buccaneers scored. And yes, in the chat, I can't pronounce your name, but it starts with an O. Yes, Cliff Kingsbury is a beta male. I won't stray away from that. But Jayden Daniels, he showed that whatever you're waiting for Kyler Murray, it's probably never coming, which kind of sucks. Because if you were like me, and for the first couple years of Kyler, you were all in, you were ecstatic, you were happy to be here. There's really just one way to win now with Kyler, and there's only one way to win a Super Bowl with Kyler, and that's with loading up this team. And that might be the same thing for Justin Herbert, and that might be the same thing for CJ Stroud, and that might be the same thing for we're not sure if you're a tier 2 or tier 1 quarterback. But this idea that Kyler will ever be a tier 1 guy, like when Mike Sando released his quarterback rankings at the beginning of every year, it's over. Barring something dramatically different, it is over. It'll be year 7 next year. You either have it or you don't. And Jayden Daniels, that guy has it. And I have never been more wrong. It's so funny. The 2 guys I was wrong about, just horrendously wrong about, and I have big opinions, and I have to admit when I'm wrong. That just happens sometimes. But 2 guys that I was wrong about, Jayden Daniels and Lamar Jackson. Couldn't have been more wrong about the 2 guys that basically play the exact same way. You think I would have learned the first time? I didn't. He is tremendous. He's fantastic. His ability to move in the pocket, throw with precise accuracy, and run the ball, it's all things that I thought Kyler Murray was going to be. But unfortunately for me, that is not the case. And we learned this weekend that Kyler can be a top 10 guy, top 8 guy, but this idea he'll ever be a tier 1 player on his own without the same amount of great players that an opposing team has, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it doesn't mean you should give up on it. It doesn't mean they shouldn't bring back Kyler next year. There are no other better options. But we did learn what the limitations are for one Kyler Murray. And while the Commanders are continuously pushing ahead in the playoffs, players like Justin Herbert are getting excuses made for him once again. And Kyler Murray sitting at home while the Los Angeles Rams, a division rival, play a home playoff game, in quotes, today in Kyler Murray's home stadium. So you learned some things that maybe you didn't like so much about Kyler, but other things that were encouraging between the Justin Herbert loss and the Jayden Daniels win. Some players have it. Some players don't. Some players are tier 1. Some players are tier 2.